Hello and welcome once again to Fantasy Fiction Focus. We are here today with Jill Turner, fantasy author, who's in Colchester in the UK, in Essex in the UK, I think. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening and welcome, I suppose. It's a big time difference. I'm in Western Canada here and you're all the way over there in that little island off the coast of Europe. Now, you just produced, well, you're a fantasy author, of course. Now, a book's just come out. There was the first one was called The Seelie Princess, but the new one has just come out, the sort of second part, hasn't it? It's called Rise of the Dragons, is that right?
Yes, it is, yes. Yes, it was released the other day.
And how's it doing? Has it sold millions already?
It's sold a few copies, yes. It's getting interest, which is good. It's from what I can see on Amazon, it's coming up quite nicely. So yeah, it appears to be doing okay.
Now I'm assuming, of course, because it's got dragons in the title, it's a fantasy book and everything. So what I'm going to do is maybe you can tell us a little bit about these wonderful books and what they're about, but don't give too much away, of course, else no one will buy the books. But tell us a little bit about these stories, what they're about, both of them actually, because obviously they're a series so far. Tell us about this wonderful series of yours.
Okay, well, the first one, the Seelie Princess, was started. I didn't intend it to be. It's going to be a trilogy, and it wasn't intended to be. When I very first started it, it was a story that I started as a kind of cathartic measure for my daughter. And it progressed. The story grew and changed, and it ran away with me in the end. And it's about a little girl who, it transpires, comes from Seelie, which is another world. But she doesn't know this. She's been born and brought up in the UK, in Norfolk. And she goes to school in Norfolk. And there is a member of a third world who is desperate to get into Seelie, and she knows that this particular child has powers that are latent, and she wants them. So it's the story of Clary and one of her little friends and how they outwit this particular unseelie person who is a teacher at the school. And the story progresses from there.
And now, that's the Seelie Princess. That's the first one.
Yes, yes.
And one follows on from that. Okay, I'm sorry. Please continue.
In Rise of the Dragons, the story carries on. Clary has escaped and she's been taken to Seelie. She's found out she comes from Seelie. She's been taken there to be kept out of the way of this unseelie person. But when she's taken, she leaves behind her best friend who's helped her through things in the Seelie Princess. And it leaves him at danger because the unseelie teacher knows that they're best friends. So the unseelie go after him. The police have actually captured the teacher, but she escapes and she disappears. Nobody knows where she is. So Sam, who's the little boy, goes to try and find his friend, but he's got to do it in such a way that he keeps out of the way of the unseelie. He doesn't want to put his own parents in danger. So it's the story, basically, it's Sam's adventure, this one, more so, where he goes, he finds the teacher's old house and he finds an egg, which he is really drawn to. And he has to take it with him. He has to take it away with him. There's a lot more that goes into it as well. He has friends that help him along the way, and he meets an unseelie person who isn't evil at all, and who they join together. But ultimately, he finds himself in Seelie with this egg. It's quite a long story to go into.
Don't tell us too much about it, because otherwise we want people to find this wonderful. It sounds like a fascinating thing. Now, there's presumably going to be a third part at some point, I would imagine, because I know the second one's just come out. So, is the third one in the process of being written?
It's in planning at the moment. I know what I want to happen. I just need to get it all down. I'm planning it out as to how it's all going to tie in together. Because, and I'm still doing some research on things as well, to do with dragons, because as the second book indicates, there are dragons now involved. They were thought to be extinct in Seelie, but they're the egg cracks at the end of the first book, at the end of the second book, and
you're revealing too much again here. Don't be.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning that obviously it's a series now, a trilogy now, and I'm assuming that when you were writing the second one, you would have had a third one in mind. But when you wrote the first one, you didn't? I'm going to write a book, and that was it. And then you had no real idea. Oh, I'm going to write 3. Presumably, when you were writing the first one, you thought, "Wow, there's a lot more here than I thought." Right?
Yes, that's exactly the way it went. The story, when I first started writing it, it twisted and turned so much in my own mind, and it changed. And it kind of wrote itself, which sounds silly, but it just expanded, and everything that I'd been thinking all joined together, and it gelled. And when I got to the end of it, I knew that it had to go on. The story hadn't finished. I know she'd escaped, but then it opened up a whole new avenue of things in my mind. Well, she may have escaped, but what actually happens to the people left on Earth? And it grew. It just went from there, really.
I think that's what happens with a lot of them, actually. I think that's what I found with my last one. I was deciding to write a sequel, and I thought, well, there's actually more than one book here. There's probably at least 2. Now, are you going to be thinking of writing more, or would it stick with being a trilogy? Do you think you'll want to do volumes of books on this particular topic in this world?
I think that once the third book is done, that story will be told. Can't guarantee it. I may go back on it in years to come and think, oh, actually, yeah, that could happen. But at the moment, the plan is that it finishes at that particular part. At the end of the third book, that will be it for these particular characters. So
when is this third one going to be coming out, do you think? I mean, obviously it's in the planning stages, and the new one, the second one, came out, well, just like the other day. So are you thinking about a year from now, maybe the third one will be done?
Yes, probably, yes. I'm actually, I'm giving myself some headspace at the moment on this one, and I've started something else which came to mind. And I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through it at the moment, and it's for older, but for young adults. It is much more young adult than the Seelie Princess and Rise of the Dragons, and I'm really enjoying it. So while I've got my head in that headset, I'm going to get this one done first, and then I can go back to it and give it a clear shot. I don't want it to run stale.
Right, because you want to get that one down even in a raw form, and because otherwise you're going to forget it, I suppose. Now, obviously, this was inspired by, I think you mentioned on your website on Amazon that this was inspired, the first one was inspired by some experience your daughter had in her school or something like that, in her school days.
Yes, that's right. When she was quite young, actually, she tried, my daughter's quite shy and she's quite quiet. And when she's faced with something that she doesn't know how to deal with, she doesn't do it so much now, she's 14 now, but when she was younger, she would hide behind her hair. And she had a particular person in school that really did not like it, and was just, the things that she said to her were absolutely horrendous. And she didn't know how to deal with it. And she didn't tell me for a long, long time what was going on, and in the end it was other members of staff that alerted me to what was going on, and it did get dealt with. But in her head, in my daughter's head, she never had any resolution to it because she didn't know how to. She was too young, which is where they're from, actually, because I wanted some form of redress for her. And in the beginning, as I say, it was only just for her, and it changed drastically. the whole story changed drastically. But there's a lot of things in there that are said to the character that were said to my daughter, that shouldn't have been. So yeah,
that's the initial inspiration for that then. But obviously, the inspiration for the world that it's in and things have come from lots of other places too. I mean, it's obviously a big fantasy epic by the sound of things. So have you always been interested in sort of the fantasy sort of stories and dragons and what have you?
Yes and no. When I was a little girl, yes, very much so. Same as all little girls and little boys to a degree. You go through that stage of wanting to be what you're not, don't you, as you're growing up. It's how you learn about yourself and learn about life, playing and learning and pretending. It's all pretense. So growing up, yeah, very much so. I liked Enid Blyton. I liked all just the pretend side of things rather than the real life side of things. These books that are educatory, shall we say. I mean, stories for kids that have a moral. I was never into them particularly. I preferred something that made my mind go. It made my imagination work. And I think that's why things like Marvel nowadays with the Hulk, it attracts little boys. It attracts boys because boys are hyper and they want to be out doing things and they want to express themselves physically. And they can do it by pretending. So as a child, yes, I was very much led by that kind of thing. As an adult, maybe not so much, although having said that, I absolutely adore Sir Terry Pratchett's books. See, I'm getting names wrong all over the show today. But Terry Pratchett's works, yes, I read them. I can read them over and over and over again and get something new each time that will make me laugh out loud because it's so tongue-in-cheek and so amazingly written. He was a very, very... He just made your mind work overtime. You didn't need the pictures on the front. You could see it all yourself anyway. So from that point of view, yes, very much so. But other things that I read and enjoy vary. I've got a really varied taste. I'm not specifically sci-fi or fantasy. I've got all sorts of things that go on up there.
Now, you've not always been doing this, of course, though, because I mean, your background, I think I read, was in sort of the education realm and everything, and obviously, you know, jobs and careers and things like that. So you've sort of come to this, I suppose, not late in life, but later than you didn't start as a teenager or a child or anything like that. So you've started at a later stage because the first book, the Seelie Princess, came out when? When was that?
May.
Oh, so that was this year too. Okay, so you came to this obviously a little bit as a more mature person, shall we say? So why suddenly decide to write a book? Why did you decide to suddenly do this?
It wasn't really a sudden decision. It was just circumstances more than anything else. I've written things down. Since my daughters were both very young, I've always told stories to them. I've made them up. I used to take them to bed for their bedtime stories. And my youngest in particular preferred me to make a story up rather than read to her. She loved it. So over the years, I've written down notes and bits and pieces. I've got loads of them, different stories and things that I've had up here. And I haven't had time to sit and write them. Now that she's that bit older, I have more time. She's more understanding and she's less, I want this, mum, can I go? You know what it's like with children. You have to drop everything and go and help them. I don't need to so much anymore because she's that much older. And it's given me a bit more freedom to be able to actually sit down and kind of switch off from real life and do this. So I do find myself writing at all sorts of odd times. But I make sure that I've got the time for it now, and I wish that I had done it years ago.
And now you can't stop.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Now you can't stop writing.
Yes, yeah, that sums it up. Actually, it does. I find if I don't get something down at least 3 or 4 days a week, I don't feel right. I've got to do it. I have to sit down and do something.
So would that be your advice then to other writers? I guess is that that they should write all the time, or keep going? Would that be your advice?
I think I can only go by myself. I wish that all those stories that I'd had in my head over the years, and I'm talking decades, I'm not just talking like the odd few years here. I wish I had taken the time to start them, because I would probably be a whole heap better at it now. I think if you're a new author or you want to write, just do it. That's all I can say. Just do it. Try and find the time, even if it's just note form. Write it down and come back to it when you do actually get some time, and do something with it, because you never know. I've spoken to so many people that have said, oh, you've done this, that's really good, I want to write a book too. Then do it. Don't just sit on it. If you want to do it, do it. That's the only.
And as well, you decided you've self-published these books, of course. They're on Amazon and through Create Space and Kindle and everything. Now, did you ever? I suppose two questions really. Did you ever consider approaching traditional publishers? And if you did, well, first off, did you do that? Did you approach traditional publishers first, or decide to go self right away?
I hummed and hawed about it. I sent a couple of chapters off to a couple of publishers, and didn't hear anything for quite some time. And during that time, I learned a lot more about traditional publishing. And the main thing, it seemed to me, was that it can take an awfully long time if a traditional publisher takes you on, from you submitting your book and it actually coming out into print. And then they still expect you to be able to do a lot of the promotion and the marketing for yourself anyway. They want you to have a platform, they want you to have followers, they want you to have this and that. And in my head, I was thinking, well, that could be 18 months, 2 years down the line if they take it on at all. I'm going to be correspondingly older again. I'm still going to have to do all the sorts of things that I'm going to have to do if I go self-publishing anyway. Take a punt. And that's exactly what I did. So I self-published, and it was surprisingly easy, actually. I think I would actually recommend it to people. If you really do feel passionately about something and you want to do it and you believe that you can, and you've had some feedback and your work's been looked at and people actually do think, yeah, it's a good story, put it out there. You never know. Thing is, with traditional publishing, you could send a manuscript off to 100 people, and you don't find the right fit. There probably would be someone out there that would take it on and would love it and would promote it with you and get it there. But it's finding that one person that it's tremendously hard. Same as it's always been, presumably. But I think, I don't know whether they'll ever have to look at changing the way that they work, because self-publishing has come into its own a lot more now. There's a lot of indie authors out there, and there's a lot of good indie authors out there. So
I think things may change. I think you've got hit the nail on the head there. I think most people today seem to be thinking, you know what, I've written this thing, I am going to give it to people to read and see if it's any good, and not just friends, and then give it to people you don't know and things. And some people are saying, you know what, I'm going to try and send this out, because a lot of the time they have other careers and jobs and things. They decide to send it out to publishers and let it circulate for a year or something, and while they work on something else. And after a year, if they don't get anywhere with it, they think, you know what, I'm just going to put this out myself. And if it's successful, maybe they'll never go back to it. And some people who have been traditionally published for years, famous authors, even some of them are self-publishing things now, because, as you said, they can get them out a bit quicker. So how has your experience been with it? You said since May, were you happy with the way the Seelie Princess has been received?
Yes, actually I was. It surprised me, actually, the reviews that I received, and the general comments. It's been, yeah, I have been really surprised, because I think when when you do put something out there, you're taking a chance on it. And it's I put mine out there with the thought, everybody's going to hate this. It's going to be something that they're all going to think, why on earth has she done it? And I haven't actually had anyone come back and say that to me yet. No doubt I will at some stage. It's not going to appeal to everybody. Someone's bound to go and read it and think, yeah, this is a load of rubbish. Fair point. It's not going to be for everybody. It's a children's book. But yeah, it was surprisingly well received.
Well, I think that's the thing, you mentioned it there too. That's another thing that I've found too, that I think it takes a while for anybody to get used to, is the fact that, well, it isn't going to be to everyone's taste. Everyone isn't going to like it. If you go into it thinking, well, my book's on Amazon, everyone's going to love it, and if the one person doesn't, you get upset. Well, that's not the point. It's never going to be for everyone. Harry Potter has been a phenomenal success over the years, but not everyone has liked the books, even though it's sold millions. It's not for everyone. So yeah, well, good for you. And of course, the fact that it's a series will probably help, because, you know, people are going to be buying the first one, you know, a year from now or less. They're going to buy the first one and think, wow, I want to know more, you know, and there's another one ready to go, and there'll be another one after that. So, well, I'm glad it's gone well. Have you been able to promote it by, you know, talking about it at schools or anything like that in your local area?
Not as yet. I have my local library contacted me a while ago now, actually, and asked if I'd like to go and do a reading there. And he has an in with a lot of the local schools, which he's putting me forward for. But unfortunately, he broke his leg, bless him, so that hasn't happened as yet. It's going to, it will, hopefully, if he comes back, it will happen after that. That was really nice, because it was somebody who works at the library that contacted me and said, look, I'll put your name forward for this. Would you be interested? And I went to see him, and yeah, very interested. It's a nice way of getting involved locally as well.
Yeah, well, as we've said, the marketing and promotion is very, very important. But it seems like you're well on the way to getting this done and everything, and it sounds like things are going well so far. So I'd like to thank you very much for being on here today. It's been quite interesting to talk to someone who's self-published something in quite a short space of time, and the advice you've got for writers is going to be very useful, I think, to people who are just starting out, I think, or haven't published anything yet. So thank you very much, Jill, for being on with us today, and wish you all the best with the book in the future.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for interviewing me.